Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Get Real with Nada. And this week I'm talking about a topic that's relevant for everybody. It's the topic of productivity. I think recently and just in the era that we're living in today, we are overwhelmed with the amount of things that we need to do, that we feel the need to do. And I find so many people just obsessed with this idea of productivity. How can I be more productive? And you're always looking for hacks and things to do, how you can be better. And all that does is in the end create more stress for you as your to-do list never ends. And even if you end up becoming a little bit more productive, you add more things to your to-do list and you just always feel like you're catching up. And this pace of us trying to just do things all the time, being in this productivity rut, has really been ingrained in us from a very early age. So if you see kids, as soon as they start school, parents start putting them into extracurricular activities. When you go to college or university, your days are just jam-packed and you're going from one activity to another and doing one thing over another. And more, we don't have time to just relax and not do anything at all. In fact, doing nothing at all is often seen as you're being lazy. You're not doing something valuable for yourself or for society or for the work or for the environment in general. So it's really looked down upon if you're just sitting there and relaxing and not doing anything. And really in this video, I would really like to challenge this approach and challenge how we define productivity. So me also from a very early age, I went to university all the time trying to make sure that every single thing I did was contributing towards something, that I wasn't wasting my time. I was just always trying to optimize what I could do and how much I could do in one day. When I moved to Norway, I started thinking a little bit differently around this, as I found that people had a little bit of a more balanced way of living. But at the same time, even in Norway, I feel at work, at least, people are just overwhelmed with their to-do list and just all the time rushing and trying to catch up to get things done from their to-do list. So this is a topic that's also become even more relevant now because this whole situation has been exacerbated by the pandemic, where we just have back-to-back calendars. Most of my team, most of the people that I work with are just jumping from one meeting to another, and they just never feel like they have enough time. So one of the advice I have for people is to just realize that, we are living in a time of abundance and we will never really have enough time to get to do all the things that we want to do. And in a way, be okay with never finishing everything that you have, instead of letting that really stress you out more. That will then in the end start impacting your productivity and potentially lead to burnout, as you feel like you're always catching up and there's just more and more things that are put on your to-do list. But the most important thing that you can do is think more strategically about your to-do list. So instead of creating this very linear to-do list, which is a list of things that you need to do, actually take the time to think and ask yourself, what am I doing? And why is this important? What are my goals? How are these things that I'm doing going to help me achieve my goals? And in some way, triage your list. Prioritize it and say, these are the things that I'm going to focus on because it's actually going to advance me in my goals that I've set for myself. A second most important thing you can do is also ask yourself, who do you want to become a year from now, 2 years from now? Because the things that you end up spending your time on, the things that you end up doing, eventually will define who you are. So if you want to become someone who is a public speaker, who's really good at talking to large audiences, well, then you put that as a goal and say, well, I want to become this person. So how can I put in my things to-do list, whatever I do during the day, more opportunities for me to become that person who's very comfortable in talking in public, who's very comfortable in giving speeches, who's very comfortable in making videos, or whatever it is that you want to do, right? So you really want to identify what is the kind of person that you want to become, and then make a to focus on list. Like, what are the things that you're going to focus on? And there you could put things like, I'm going to focus on public speaking. Any opportunity I get, I'm going to raise my hand and say, I want to talk more, I want to speak more, so I can really find my voice. So productivity is really defined as what's important to you at that particular moment, and it can change from day to day. So someone who really talks a lot about productivity is someone called Charles Duhigg, who's written a book on the power of habits, but also a book on productivity. And he says, someone could have a very different productivity mindset on a Saturday versus a Tuesday. And actually, sometimes when we really look down on activities in which we're doing nothing, those are the really restorative activities that we need for our brain, for our body, to be more productive when Tuesday comes, right? So taking your weekends to relax, to turn off, really reactivates neurons in your brain that make connections and make some of these connections permanent, so that when you go back to work flows easier and you really can be more productive. So the definition of productivity for me is not only the number of things that you can do, but it's also being able to take the time to think deeply about what you need to do, and then take the time to relax, so that when you show up, you have more energy to actually perform, be more creative. So it's working in a smarter way. So it's not, you could, in a way, I feel like we still look at productivity sort of pre-industrial era, where it's like per hour what you can get done. But actually, in this post-industrial era, in this digital era, productivity should be when you're not working, how things are still moving forward for your goals, right? So how can you put in place mechanisms that you're still advancing your goals without having to work harder, without it being a struggle, but actually it happens more effortlessly. So really, I think productivity, you can define it as working smarter, working more creatively, which means that you actually take the time to pause and reflect on what you're doing, and not get stuck in this daily rut of doing more and just crossing things out blindly without really thinking and without really taking the time. So really, productivity is deep thinking and strategic thinking. So think about that this week as you start your work week. Really, how are you running your days? Are you just unconsciously adding things to your calendar, adding things to your to-do list without really taking the time to think strategically? How is this actually helping you? How is this helping your company? How is this helping you actually proceed forward and meet your goals and objectives? In the end, the only valuable resource that we have in this world is time. And you can decide what you spend your time on, because what you spend your time on makes you who you are, and that makes you who you will become. So be more judicious, be more deliberate on what you're spending your time on. Every year, every month, or every day, make a to focus on list, make a to become list, and then look at your to-do list and see, what are the things on here that fit into my focus on list, that my to become list, so that I'm less reacting to the demands of the world and people around me, but more creating the future that I want for myself. So that's my advice for you for this week, is to think more strategically and be more productive, but think about it in a different way. Thank you.